Can you explain to us a little about the Tal Law and what it means for Israeli society?
The law, Tal Law, was originally passed exactly 10 years ago almost to the date, 2002. And it was a result of a committee that got together under a Supreme Court judge, a former Supreme Court judge, that tried to put together an arrangement in which Haredi, ultra-Orthodox men would be integrated slowly into either IDF service, army service, or some sort of national service. The idea was that it was really an answer to a Supreme Court decision back in 1998 that ruled that it was unfair for a large segment of the Israeli population to be exempt from army service or some sort of national service.
How do you think this will play out in the political sphere?
I mean, there's a political question here. What exactly is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu going to do? One option is to reach some sort of another kind of ad hoc arrangement in which somehow the ultra-Orthodox will basically continue to skirt their army duty or their national service. And it'll be just some sort of cosmetic change to the Tal Law, which was already, which was already ruled unacceptable by the Supreme Court. If he does that, then there's a problem within his coalition because Israel Beitenu is demanding something much more serious. Not just a cosmetic change, they want something, the time has come now, not for ad hoc solutions, says Avigdor Lieberman, who's the head of Israel Beitenu. He wants something serious. And it might be that he'll even leave the coalition, which will mean early elections. On the other hand, if Netanyahu decides to go to go against the Haredim, then he'll have a problem with them leaving his coalition. In other words, if he tries to adopt some sort of legislation which the Haredim are opposed to, then that will also be a problem. He has to somehow find a middle road between the two. In other words, some sort of legislation that would answer the minimum requirements of Lieberman, while also not forcing the Haredim out of his coalition.
Can you give us a bit of context? How do you frame this law and this whole issue historically?
This is it's something called the status quo, which is referred to as kind of like a modus vivendi, which allowed religious and secular to live together in the Jewish state, starting even before the creation of Israel. In other words, back in 1948, there was a letter, even before the creation of Israel, that was sent by David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister, to be, that was basically promised basic rights to the religious, and kind of an encroachment of religion into state issues. And what the issue that we're talking about is military service for men and for women, that basically was a promise that there would be some sort of an exemption for men who devote their lives to studying the Torah. At the time, there were only 400 men that were devoting their time. The vast majority of Haredi men did join the army, enlisted in the army, and fought in the War of Independence, fought in additional wars that we've had over the years. But due to all sorts of different changes that took place in the society, by 1977, when the major Haredi parties joined the newly formed government under Likud, after there was this tremendous turnaround and the political turnaround, and a right-wing government was for the first time brought into power, we're talking about 8,000 men who were exempted. Today, it's more than 60,000. To give an example, or give some sort of a focus, there are approximately a quarter of men who are 18 years old today who in some way or other skirt army service, get out of it, draft dodging or whatever you want to call it. Over half of them today are Haredi.